We're in
So
it.
should we introduce ourselves?
Yeah, go for it.
Why don't you guys just do the from the top down in the Discord?
Yeah.
All right. Hi, I'm Anna. I did the models and animations.
I'm Farron. I did the texturing for the character models mostly.
My name is Ninja, otherwise known as Tian. I just art directed this project.
Just.
I'm RPG. I'm the dev for this project.
I'm Spiritly. I'm the concept artist and character creator.
I'm TRS, or the Redstone Scientist, and I am the project manager and creative director of Everbloom.
Damn, look at all these people. This is awesome. I'm going to try and ask questions for specific people, but if I refer to the wrong person for the work that they do, I apologize. But because that was a lot of different things. So we have representation from art, from concept art, from management, and from dev. Is that right?
Unfortunately, we don't. Basically, we have somebody from everybody except for sound and build.
Got it. Okay. That sounds good. I won't ask any sound or build questions. Well, maybe I will, but oh my god. So this is probably one of the most creative maps I've played in a really long time. I'm kind of curious how this just the idea of the witch's stew kind of started, and who was the one kind of driving forward hey, we really want to make this map that's kind of a very unique map.
Well, it was actually Anna's pitch. Anna, you want to talk about what the original idea was?
Basically, I just wanted to make something that was very whimsical and just inspired by the Studio Ghibli, and then I really like witches and just that whole aesthetic, so I just wanted to sort of go with that.
So when we had our concept meeting, and there was a lot of references to Kiki's Delivery Service.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we had our concept meeting, and this is actually one of the more difficult concept meetings we've had about trying to figure out what we wanted to do with this concept. And we thought, well, what if we definitely want some sort of a thing. It was sort of like a sister to Crazy Town, one of our old maps that is, an opportunity to do a lot of voice acting, to have wacky characters, just sort of an interesting cast, and be sort of a delivery person or a helper going from place to place. We thought, man, what can we do that ties them all together? Because that was a shortcoming of Crazy Town, that there wasn't enough tying them together. Well, what if they're trying to make something, cook something? How about stew? So it's actually still known in our Discord. This original name was Stew Punk.
Oh, I like
instead
it.
of
yes,
Steampunk.
Stew Punk.
Yeah.
Stew Punk is cool. So do you actually have an official process in your studio for doing pitches like that?
Yeah, so we just did one earlier today. And basically every month we have people submit high concept documents, or HCDs. And there's not really, we have some example documents, but there's not really a specific template to follow. And the idea is it's less than a design doc, but it's more than an elevator pitch.
Mm-hmm.
You want to basically, you're sitting down to coffee with somebody and you want to quickly tell them about the idea. And it goes over what your ideas are, what the scope of the project is, what are some of the pitfalls and design goals. And then we all vote on which ones we liked. We talk about it for 10 minutes, which ones we liked.
Mm-hmm.
And then management will eventually decide, all right, it's time to do this one. It's time to do that one. And then we have an actual concept meeting where we say, okay, well, the HCD is just a starting point. What do we want to do with this? How do we want to adapt this? And it always changes very drastically. But we need that starting point to work from. And that person who wrote the HCD is then labeled as a creative conception and listed top build in the credits.
That's cool. So Anna, so this was your idea that you wrote that HCD. So I kind of asked this a little bit, but I want to dig deeper. So you were kind of inspired in wanting to do a, kind of that witch theme kind of map, something inspired by Studio Ghibli. How did that idea kind of pop into your head?
I think it's just something I've had as like an idea for a while, like either want to do as like a video game, or I'm an animator, so even as like possibly small animation. Eventually I decided to, pitch it as a HCD to the team, and it went from there.
That's really cool. So how much of the so I might have missed Farian. Did you do the modeling, or is that somebody else?
No, I did the texturing. Modeling
The
was by
texturing.
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I just want to make sure. So yeah, I kind of want to talk about some of the models, but maybe actually
Before we get to that, though, just in terms of talking about the design of it, I would feel bad if we didn't mention Red Nomster, Austin Sanders, because he was originally the dev on this project. He was responsible for coming up with a lot of the characters in terms of their personalities, and unfortunately, he has decided to move on from Minecraft since we started this project. An RPG took over for him, but we love him very, 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 very much.
Yeah, shout out to Austin. So actually, I feel like before we talk about the models and stuff like that, we should talk about the first part of that process, which is probably the concept art. Because I do have a bunch of that, because I kind of want to touch on some of the things that I see in that concept art to ask you some questions on how you kind of turn that and make it turn lifelike. So Ridley, what was the kind of the process for kind of making concept art for this map? Did you have kind of the characters to kind of go off, then you kind of had free control to make them look how you like, or something different?
We had like a document where there was like a little description of the characters, and just like a name, a placeholder. Some of the characters just had like a placeholder name.
Dude McBroski, as you just saw there, his
McBroski, basically it was the original name for Capageri, and that name was added by RPG. But yeah, I just had like a small description and just talked it with our art director, that is Ninja, and I just say, hey, I'm going to do this and this, and we watched some Ghibli movies before starting. One of them was the Witching Training. It has a different name in
Kiki's
Spain.
Delivery Service.
Kiki's Delivery Service. But yeah, we watched on Netflix the Kiki's Delivery Service, and also My Neighbor Totoro. And I already liked a lot. I'm a big fan of Miyazaki and the Ghibli movies. So we had an idea on our head that was not create real animals. So every animal had to be like a mythological creature that was completely created by us. So the first one was Bartholomew, because we wanted to give it that Totoro-like features, and that's the original like base for the rest of the characters, was trying to be as similar as Ghibli style, like Miyazaki's movies style. And basically, I went through the whole movies from Ghibli Studios and watched the character design for the smaller creatures and the bigger creatures, and then I got the descriptions from the document, and I say, okay, so for example, you have Lady Ouroboros that we wanted to do something like a serpent-like creature, so I took a little bit of some of the dragons that appear on some of the Ghibli movies, and I mix it with a snake-like creature with a Japanese-style hair. Very, very, because the description also was more than design-wise. The description in the document was more like, oh, this character behaves this way. Like Lady Ouroboros was very, oh, I'm the late like I don't know how to make voices. Okay,
it's a great impression. Yeah.
I'm my dad is rich, and I'm sitting here like I'm really rich and all that. So I just decided to make a character very ladylike, with full of cushions and the fan and the tea. She had like a Japanese tea table near her and all that, and then go from that. And there were some more difficult characters to create. For example, I think for Capageri. Capageri was really difficult because because he was like at the beginning was like someone that lives near the sea, and was like, oh, what can we do something. So I went for the Japanese mythological, because the thing of Ghibli movies is that they go really Western Europe. It's very it's a Japanese studio, but it's very Western like in mind, like very fantasy Western. But we decided to add a little bit of Japanese for the thing. So, for example, Kappa-Jerry is like a kappa, that is a mythological Japanese creature, mixed with a jellyfish, a little mermaid-like. I think one of the initial designs was more mermaid type of design that I didn't like very much until I made him like a jellyfish. And then there's another character that took a little bit of, like, it was a little bit difficult to design. That was Sherbert, because I think we didn't have at the beginning the idea that he was like a plain. He was like he lived in the mountain. That was the only description, and there was another character living in the mountain, like in ice. And so I decided to make him a fan of airplanes, and that's because Miyazaki was himself a fan of airplanes. And for example, the model he has a model of an airplane in his hand, and that small model is the Porco Rosso airplane from the Porco Rosso movie.
Oh, cool.
And it was probably I upped my art a lot for this project. I think
You really did.
I'm really proud of how I'm not only proud of how the art looks in the concept art, but also how really proud of the work that Anna and Farian did. Because wow, when the first models were appearing with the animations and then the texture came in, I was like, oh my god, they look just like the concept art, and we know how difficult in Minecraft that is.
We have a co-working channel in our Discord where we could sort of hang out, usually silently, and we stream what we're doing sometimes, just to sort of have some companionship from afar. And I remember watching Farian texture Bartholomew, and just like I couldn't get any work done because I was so enthralled just watching him do it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like there is. I mean, you can tell that there's character in the concept art, but once you really like see them animated in game, that's really where that kind of true character and the true personality comes from. So I'm kind of curious, Anna and Farian, how did you understand kind of the what that character should be, and then how did you reflect that in the animations and the textures?
I think you start, Anna, because you made the model, which is like the next step in this process.
Right. So once we have Spridley's amazing concept art, it's basically just trying to work that into a block form. And if you look at the concept art, like Spridley does do like a sketch block form for each one, which usually super helpful, especially if there is like a certain part of the model that's a bit more difficult. Spridley might have an idea of like how the blocks can lay, and then I can sort of like work that into the actual models. That on top of having just like the little description of personality for each one just really helps trying to like get that into like the model. And then once all the model's done, texturings and animation both happen at the same time, since we got two different people working on those.
Yep, they can kind of go separately. Yeah, man, like I don't, not to be, Ridley and Anna like really did the heavy lifting on this. Like they knocked it out of the park. I'm so impressed by like what they did. I'm really proud of my texturing for this project as well. I think this is probably some of my I would say best to date. Like I'm so happy with how they turned out, but like it could not have happened with like such lively designs by Ridley, and like the great like translation to the Minecraft format by Anna. Like I'm so super impressed.
Yeah, no, it's I totally agree. So Ninja, I'm kind of curious, with something that has such strong characters and such interesting personalities. How did you, as like the art director, kind of make everything still feel like it was part of a larger universe? That these characters are part of this this fantasy world, and they're all very different, but they all do feel like they're supposed to be in the same world.
Yeah, so like with every project, what we'll usually start with these characters is the character descriptions. So we really get a base of the different personalities, so we can start figuring out, oh well, this creature can be kind of a bit more snake-like, where they'll be like very decorated in like jewelry and stuff. When then you have people like Bartholomew, which is, we want him in a rocking chair and reading books and just very calm and very tutorial-like. So with all these characters, like those descriptions as our first place we look, and then from there, I'll start gathering references and compile them into an art bible, which we'll work from. Like everyone in the art department will work from and build as well, which really helps get a consistent vision across the map. And having that there that we can always refer back to if we're looking at, oh, what was this character kind of all about? Having those kind of descriptions, the personality really help when trying to bring that through in the designs. So working with Ridley as well is really important at that stage, like brainstorming ideas, and he'll go off and work on some concepts, and he'll come back and we'll discuss them a bit more, maybe make some changes and really develop the characters and flesh them out. To really make sure that they feel alive, and add all these little details like the tea set for Lady Ouroboros is a really nice touch to really make the character feel like they belong in the world.
That's cool. So TRS did share the art bible with me. Is there any places that you'd like me to kind of show on stream that are some things that you're most particularly proud of?
Ooh, I think the character designs for let me have a look.
It's 25 pages. That's so cool.
Yeah. So in there, there'll be kind of all descriptions about the different environments. Like if you look at the McBroski's house, you can really tell that our
Nick
inspiration.
Broski. It's still funny to me.
McBroski. Oh God, yeah, of course, Capajuri. Sorry.
Mick Broski, I love it though.
Yeah, that was kind of a very good descriptor of his character. So yeah, we'll add descriptions in there. Sometimes we'll put some color palettes that the level designers can go off with. And just having this kind of base, like not only for the different characters, but also for the houses, really helps fit the characters to their environments. If you look at kind of earlier on where we have the mood and theme and world and environment, that's also a really key part of the art bible, and something that I always like to start them off with, because just to make sure everyone is on the same page right from the start, just really summarize what the map is all about, kind of buzzwords, really key reference images. So as you can see, there's a lot of Studio Ghibli, which was obviously our key reference for this map.
That's really cool. Yeah, I flipped through this when he sent it over to me, and I was just like, there's so much cool stuff. Even just like the colors, kind of what you want to kind of build. You're able to pull just from some really amazing references. So, all the different artists and builders and everything like that have a single, a single guide basically, so that everything kind of stays that consistency, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think for this map especially, like the world is just so consistent because everyone has a very shared vision of what they want the map to be.
It's worth noting that builders use the art bible as well to to get, especially on these POIs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
super
then from
cool.
there they'll take that inspiration and kind of source their own reference images to really build up on that. So it's just a really good starting point for everyone, I think.
Yeah, this is awesome. That's so cool. So then, with all this art and stuff like that, there's somebody's got to put it all together and make it work. So RPG. So it sounds like you came on this project pretty fairly well. I guess not super late, because you kind of did a lot of the work with kind of, I guess, Austin kind of laying the foundation. But Tierras was saying in the chat that this is your first map ever. So what was that experience like?
This will be good.
Oh boy, stressful, like to say the least, but in a good way. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but for me, this sort of thing where you get to learn along the way is extremely fun. And with this one, I had to learn everything, not exactly, but almost from scratch, because I had almost never worked with Bedrock before this point. So I had to ask around a whole bunch of times. I was very, very annoying with my pestering questions on how certain things would be done, what were some best practices, what the details of specific components were and how they worked. I could work with scoreboards just fine because I came from Java and worked a lot with scoreboards and things like that and commands. But all the new entity stuff was very confusing to me at first. But once I got the hang of it, it just became like a very nice process because, my God, it's pretty as heck. So as soon as you're like, just go back to work, it's just like, oh, this is nice. All right, now let's work on this character, and then let's look at that character. And it was a very pleasing experience, despite the somewhat stressful situation of having to learn on the fly.
So what, like, I'm always very curious about people that learn Bedrock for the first time, because it's definitely something that our team is focusing on to make that process easier. Marketplace partners have access to Compass now and things like that. How did you like learn? Like, what are some of the resources that you took advantage of to actually like learn Bedrock?
Yes, and this is where TRS helped out quite a bit. We made a separate Discord specifically for that, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, we still have our training Discord. Yeah.
Yep.
And so we use it not just for training for Bedrock, but any other educational endeavors that people want to do if they want to learn modeling or environmental art. Yeah.
So yeah, it started out basically just to like train me essentially because I was so new and learning everything. So
we also have a ton of documentation of our own. So.
That was the other thing I was going to mention. Like there was a bunch of documentation that I could just skim through and like reread and look over 1,000 times just to get these ideas in my head. My favorite part was getting my grubby little hands on all the maps and playing through all of them and looking at all the code.
Oh yeah,
that was the part that helped the most because I got to see everything in action. And that helped me out the most, I think, being able to see all the stuff that was being done and how they did them.
That's cool. It makes sense having access to all the the entire library of Everbloom and being able to just crack them open and then ask the devs on the team, being like, hey, what'd you do this for? Or why'd you do this? Or how did you solve this problem? I can imagine
that's essentially what I did.
Yeah, and you just do that for for a couple months, and like, damn, you look back and you're like, oh shit. Actually learned a lot.
Yeah, pretty much. It was a lot of asking around, a lot of looking at different maps and how they did things. But in the end, it was a good thing that I at least had some experience with like creating data packs in Java. Otherwise, I do not think I would have been able to learn as quickly as I did.
So then, Dark Onyx from the chat had a question a little while ago saying, how long does it take you to complete a map from concept to release? So I'm kind of curious about this one with the the learning process built in, and a lot of the extra care that went into designing the characters and the feel. How long did this map take?
So this one in particular took about 130 days.
Okay.
I'm looking at our Gantt chart here. I think we went over on our deadlines a little bit, so because I have scheduled 124, so I'm gonna say 130, and that's pretty typical for us. We've sort of shifted our business model to doing more elaborate and higher scope maps, and since Witch's Stew, which even though it just came out, it was a while ago we made it. Since then, we've really upped both the efficiency and the quality of our work. And so like, I truly believe we could have done it in much less time if we were to start it now. Because not only because of the learning, but also I think we have a much better understanding of how to do these projects now. Yeah. And so, for example, like I said earlier, we've been working on one map for 6 or 7 months. But for the most part, it's about a 2 to 3 month process.
I see. That's impressive. Like the fact that you're able to put something that had this much just like story and adventure to it in just that short period of time is awesome.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's very uncharted territory in terms of the game design industry because, and I've talked about this in our meetings before, is that we don't have the relative luxury that we want to make games that are just as good as anything outside of Minecraft, and as much as we try and as hard as we try, we don't have the luxury of spending a year or two or more on a game because it's just too expensive. And so we have to try and feel our way through and do our best with figuring out how can we make something of the same quality that takes people years to do in just a couple of months. Obviously, we're going to have to make sacrifices. Obviously, we're going to make mistakes. There's less. I would love to do more iteration than we have time to do. And so as a result, we have to get really good at getting it the first time.
Yeah. It's an interesting way of thinking about that. That's cool. Because like my background comes from a more traditional game development background. That's what I went to school for. And I think that, learning and understanding those processes and how to speak to devs is helped me a bunch. But yeah, it is not the same. It is definitely a different thing. And, I still refer to, all these maps we make, and like everybody that makes marketplace content, they're game developers. But it's a different like set of tools that you have to use.
I think as we do more and more elaborate maps, it's feeling to me anyway, more and more like traditional studio, in the sense that the larger the map, the more collaboration I'm seeing in the chat, the more I'm seeing people get together and, iterate on ideas. And that's just because we have the time to do that. There's a tendency to sort of be like, one step, next step, next step, next step, when you're in such a rush. But I'm actually really enjoying these bigger projects so that we can talk to each other more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. Thank you so much, Everbloom Games. I love having you all on. Go ahead.
Mention the accessibility initiative.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're really passionate about is accessibility, diversity, and inclusion. And as part of our initiative of that, just the other day, I worked on, there's a website called gameaccessibilityguidelines.com. And that's sort of a guide for game developers as to all the different things you can think about when you're thinking about accessibility for games, from cognitive disabilities to hearing to visual, etc. And so that's super important to us. And we don't see a lot of that on the marketplace as much as we should, I think. Making sure that it's friendly for colorblind people and things like that. And that's something I know Minecraft takes very seriously. So what I've done is I took all of the things from that website, narrowed it down to the things that are possible in Minecraft, and assigned each of them either a point value or made them required. And so the idea is that whenever there's a QA report done, the reporter will fill out this spreadsheet and score it based on which things are implemented. And my hope is that in addition to having the base requirements, that developers will start to have a sort of friendly competition with each other to see how high they can get their score in each of these categories.
Oh, that's cool.
Gamify it a bit. And so I'm really excited about that and seeing how that's going to change our maps. In this one in particular, the assist mode was actually a result of a flaw in the game design, which is we didn't really consider the fact that the gameplay of just exploring doesn't really work that well for our target audience in the marketplace. But it ended up being quite nice to have this. You didn't use it in your playthrough, but the assist mode turns on a compass that guides you to the nearest objective, but neat. It doesn't entirely hold your hand. So I'd love to do that sort of thing more. Anyway, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. That's
super cool. No, I think I've said this before, but if not, I've always been really impressed with Everbloom and your guys' passion to continue moving forward in areas that are really admirable, with diversity, inclusion, accessibility, all that kind of stuff. So seeing how you think like Everbloom thinks to solve those problems, to make it like this gamification kind of thing, I think is really cool.
We've also started partnering with starting with Food City. As you know, we donated for the Wildlife Rainforest Fund from our rainforest map. And Food City, we donated to Action Against Hunger and partnered with them. And so we've started actually making a habit of that, of trying to figure out a charitable organization to have a partnership with for each map we do. And so we're very excited about that as well.
That's awesome. That's super cool. Well, yeah, I'm glad you're able to talk about that on stream. So, again, thank you so much for hopping in. I was gonna say one of my favorite things about having Everbloom on here is that you always bring a crowd. So I love hearing all the different perspectives: Anna, Fairy, Ninja, RPG, Ridley, TRS. It's just it's good to hear from all y'all.
We love this.
Yeah, I do too. It's a lot of fun. Any other last things that you want to plug from about Everbloom? Got any cool upcoming projects or?
Well, I can't talk about cool upcoming projects necessarily, but obviously keep an eye on it. Check out our website because we've been doing some more fun marketing stuff like that quiz about which character you are. We're starting to do more of that stuff. We have a map coming up that is super fun in multiplayer, and it's basically like a gauntlet, and that's all I'll say about it. And we have different episodes of the thing, and they're all different. I was about to say it's great writing, but I wrote it. And there are all these different episodes, and we want to do a quiz of which episode are you. So check out everbloomgames.com. Keep an eye out for stuff like that.
Sweet. Anybody else on the team? Anna, Fairy, Ninja, Grenade, Ridley?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was cool.
Not as cool as the map. Got him.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
Very
much.
clever.
You all have a fantastic rest of your Friday evening. I got to go feed my cats because that's what he's been sitting here waiting for the whole time. And I'm sure we'll have you back on. So.